Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on Radically Conservative. We're very happy to have you here with us, and it's going to be a wonderful show today. I know you're noticing that some things are a little bit different, but some things are completely the same. That's right. Family, faith, and freedom are always the focus, but some other things changed a little bit. But we still have our executive producer, Jimmy, is here with us. Jimmy.
I love being here with you guys. I love it. Thank you.
And we are happy that you're here with us as well, Jimmy. Now, I want to introduce you to a couple of my co-hosts, and we have Robert here with us. Go right ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey guys, my name is Peter Kefalas. I ran as the Republican and Conservative candidate in 2025 for New York City Comptroller, lifelong Republican, lifelong resident of Queens County, and I'm one of the founders of Queens Voice, which is a media channel.
And we also have remotely with us today another of my co-hosts, and I'll take a moment. Let's see you and introduce yourself.
Thanks, Jimmy. Thanks, Michael. My name is Robert Hornak, political consultant, columnist for the Queens Ledger, former executive director of the Queens GOP, and also lifelong Republican.
We have a huge host here with you, and I hope you're going to enjoy this. As for myself, really simple. I've been a political commentator for well over 20 years. Folks, we have a great full cast of interesting Republicans here, speaking about the conservative issues that matter to each and every one of us on the issues of faith, family, freedom, and let's start with one of the biggest things that's affecting everyone right now. That is the midterm elections and voting rights and the changes that we're seeing across this nation. I think we've all heard about so far that the Democrats tried to change the elections by changing the congressional districts. A lot of people have heard about it. You've heard either called redistricting or gerrymandering. But it turns out they were relying on race as their main reason for that. Well, the Republicans got together and we said, let's go to court. And the Supreme Court agreed with us that the Democrats' plan isn't going through. Changed up everything. So let's ask our panel what they think about that. I'm going to start off with Peter. Peter, what do you think about that?
Well, my thoughts are that we've seen the Democrats get away with gerrymandering countless times, countless election cycles. And when it benefits them, they're okay with it. When it benefits us as Republicans and they're going to lose seats in Washington, then it's a big problem. They go to court. They call us racist. They call us this. They say we're trying to silence people's votes. So I'm glad that the courts have decided. It looks like we're going to pick up some seats and maintain control in Washington, God willing. But they've been doing it forever. And the fact is, I think that the way they've drawn some of those districts in a lot of those states has been done in a poor manner that doesn't represent those areas. So now that we have Republican conservative voices that are being represented, they're going bonkers on the left, and we can't expect anything less when they don't get their way, unfortunately.
Well, Robert, right now you're outside of New York State. Let me ask you, how are you hearing things where you are? And let us know where you are. But tell us, what do you think?
Well, right now I'm in the free state of Florida visiting some family members. And, people down here are very excited, actually, for how they're going to be redrawing the lines in Florida. I think that's going to certainly help us in the midterms this year, as well the redistricting in a lot of other states. But what I find really, I think the most interesting aspect of this whole thing is that, the cries about the end, the destruction of the Voting Rights Act and how it's going to disempower and disenfranchise black voters is just nonsense. I went back and I did a quick review of the numbers. If you go back to 1965, this country was 85% white, 11% black. There were 3 black members of Congress. That's half a percentage point. Now in 2025, yes, black representation has grown, has actually outpaced its population. White population, however, has declined to 63%. Black population has only gone from 11 to 12%, but black representation in Congress has gone to 13.5%. While other groups like Hispanics have grown to almost 20%, they're at 19 now. Asians have grown to 6%, and their representation in Congress has also grown dramatically without the benefits that black districts have gotten from the Voting Rights Act. They have had no protection, no districts redrawn in their favor, and in fact, their representation has grown to 10% Hispanic in Congress, in the House of Representatives, 4% Asian, and that is tracking just behind their representation and the population at large. So it really proves that we do not need the Voting Rights Act to enfranchise anybody these days. We have a number of black members of the Senate. We have had black governors. These are in white majority states. All of these cries are only because of the political power that the Democrats got from being able to draw certain districts 100% reliable Democratic vote, because they could take as many black voters as they could from far and away and draw them all into one district under the guise of the Voting Rights Act.
Okay.
And that guaranteed them Democratic districts.
Yes. No, I agree with you, Robert. We have seen that. And what I think is very interesting is in 1965, the Voting Rights Act, yeah, it had a purpose. Today, it doesn't really. And somehow we're supposed to believe that the lines on a map represent the people who are voting. Black people can vote. They can register to vote. The Voting Rights Act worked. We don't need it anymore. At least that's the way I've always felt about it in my lifetime. But Jimmy, what do you think about that?
Well, the Democrats are always going to find a trick to manipulate it to their way no matter what. They're real smart and they're very cunning and very dangerous. And that's what I
true.
feel towards it. So whatever we try to do, they're going to come up with a trick.
Well, it is a big trick. And I think everyone has recognized at this point that their trick is whatever gives them power. That they want to, if it takes redrawing the lines, if it means claiming racism, they'll do almost anything that they can, it feels like, to try and get a political advantage. Now, I don't know if anyone else has looked at this. I have. There's something that's called the Cook Report. It's hyper backroom political guys, pundits like me, that look at that, but it gives us an idea. You keep hearing on the news media that they say, well, Democrats have an advantage, a +5, a +6, which is basically how many percentage points, how many seats they may get. But I believe, and there's data out there that says, we may see conservatives win by 3 seats. That's 221 seats in the House of Representatives, as opposed to what you're hearing right now is that we're going to lose 4 or 5 seats. You heard it here. My prediction is you will see the midterms, Republicans will win by 3 seats, 221 seats in the House. Peter, what do you think?
I'm not sure by how much we're going to win, but I agree with you. We are going to win. And if you saw recently, everyone that President Trump endorsed won. So I was like 12 for 12, 10 for 10. But I think overall, we're going to maintain control of both chambers in Washington. I think we're going to win. And to go back to what you were saying a little bit earlier, the Democrats have a nasty habit of crying racism. They like to play the race card, division by, a number of ways they could do it. But they seem to, with this particular issue, they seem to like to use the black population in our country as pawns to say this is unfair, this is this. And that's a reason I think they've been pushing back on ID, where if I go into my daughter's school to visit, even though they know me, I have to pull up my ID. If I miss a package with FedEx, the first thing they say is, you have photo ID, sir. So the fact that they've said in the past that black people can't get ID, they don't have internet, they don't have technology, it's all a bunch of BS, and they use that because they're very vicious, they're very wicked in what they do, and I just think it's just another sham excuse to say it's not fair, and unfortunately in this case, they're using black people as a pawn to say it's not fair, it's going to hurt them, when we all know, if you want to vote, no matter what color you are, you go register, you have your ID, you go to the poll. There's no one stopping you. So I think it's a nasty trick they're playing, and I think it's going to blow up in their face because ever since the first time that we saw President Trump tell the black community, what the hell do you have to lose? And we started seeing the blacks for Trump, and people started to come over more to the right side, if you will, no pun intended. I think it's been backfiring, and I think the more that they play these dirty tricks and use this, this BS, they're bringing more of those people that they expect to vote blindly for them to our side, which is good. So let them play their tricks. I think in the end, it's going to blow up in their face, and it benefits, the country, and it benefits everybody, no matter what color you are.
I'm glad that you brought up the voting, not just the Voting Rights Act, the voter ID. 81% of America, that's black, white, Hispanic, that's everybody, Democrats, Republicans, 81% of America says we should have an ID to prove that we are voting. But the only ones who say no are the very same Democrats that believe in open borders, that believe in trying to assign districts by color, which is racism, which is unconstitutional, which is why the Supreme Court agreed with the Republican conservative point of view. I'm glad that you brought that up. Let me ask you, Jimmy, do you have ID on you right now?
Absolutely. And plenty of people I know have ID on them. And when I mention that, people say, of course I have ID. But, how about that poor guy over there? I said he's too retarded to get ID. Everybody has ID.
Well, every grown adult in America pretty much has an ID. You can't get on a plane without an ID. Let me go and ask Robert. Robert, did you have to use your ID to get down to Florida?
Of course I did. I took a face scan as well. There's no getting around it. This is a red herring on the Democrats' part. Everybody has ID. Look, if 91% of Americans have a valid driver's license, over 99% of the births in this country, going back for 100 years now, have been registered with the Board of Health in all 50 states. We have universal birth registration. Anybody who's born in this country can go get a copy of their birth certificate from their state's Department of Health or their city's Department of Health. You know how many people actually turned out to vote in the last presidential election? 70%. So we got 70% of the people who are voting, 100% of the people who have the ID required to vote. So where exactly is the problem? Where is the racism there? Who are the people that are being prevented from voting? It's a made up problem. It does not exist.
No, you're absolutely right. There is no problem. Anyone who wants to vote can and does vote in America. The question that we have to answer is, do you want to vote? Is there a candidate that you want to vote for? And sometimes we get snookered on that and we vote for somebody that maybe we shouldn't have, like maybe someone like a Mandami, somebody who promises a lot of free stuff but doesn't quite come up with it. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about Mr. Mandami, Mayor Mandami, in just a little bit. And we're going to be talking a little bit more about what's happening about something else in New York, reparations. Oh my God. Jimmy, what do you think of reparations, real quick?
Sometimes I think it's a good idea to blow up the state. Blow it up. Give people's money away. Give it all away. I want reparations. My great-great-grandpappy was a slave owner. He lost his property. That's my inheritance. Was taken. So I want reparations too.
Okay. Well, that's a unique point of view. I'm not sure that Mandami or Hochul will agree with that, but when we get back from the break, we are going to be addressing this, and I'll go back and forth with Robert and Peter. I know Jimmy's going to be in the background working on the cameras for us. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. But before we do, we want you to remember, this is always about family, faith, freedom. You are a radical conservative if you believe in all of those things. And you know what? 100% of America believes in that too. See you right after the break. Thank you for being back here with us as we focus on family, we focus on faith, we focus on freedom. You know what that means? We're focusing on America. That's radically conservative, and I'm happy about that. And I'm here with my co-host, and we're going to talk a little bit about New York, because what happens in New York eventually happens to everyone else. And sadly, that's not a good thing at the most recent times, I think. And maybe my co-hosts think a little bit differently. But I think when we hear that Kathy Hochul is saying that she's going to work against the president, when she says that she's going to work against the Constitution to have open borders, to make New York a sanctuary state, at the same time that we have a communist, a socialist communist as our mayor of New York City, who also believes in open borders, I think that's a bad sign for America, even as we go into these midterm elections. But maybe I'm thinking of it the wrong way. Robert, you tell me, you're in Florida. What's going on? Are people in Florida agreeing with us, or are they agreeing with Hochul and Mandami?
Well, I think people in Florida are getting a big kick out of the fact that the migration out of New York and down to Florida now has intensified so much. There's so much building going on in Florida. There's so many people looking to move here. There are wait lists to get into different communities. And Mamdani, they say he's the realtor of the year for the state of Florida. And I think that's a pretty accurate way to summarize it.
Well, that is an interesting way. He is one of the big advertisers for moving out. What is it? U-Haul's best advertiser is Kathy Hochul and her policies, the Democrats in general. Or am I overstating it, Peter?
No, I think you hit it on the head, because if you remember going back to Comrade Bill, Crooked Adams, and now Madman Mandummy, as I like to call him, in Florida, they're telling us that they are the realtors of the year. So because of the bad policies, because of the high taxes, they're not only forcing the rich to leave, but they're forcing the small businesses, the medium businesses, and people who might have been thinking about risking their capital and starting some type of effort here in our city or our state. Well, they're going to Texas, the Carolinas, Florida, and we're seeing, what happened with the gentleman from Citadel. Mandami went outside of his building, made a video, insulted the man, and now he said, well, I'll just take all my money and my employees and my tax revenue with me. So I think you're 100% right. The Democrats are basically chasing everybody they can out of our city and state, and, they're going to the same places, Florida, Texas, the Carolinas, and a few other places.
It's really upsetting to me that we're seeing such a bleed because they've abandoned the bedrock principles of America that we talk about on this program on a regular basis, and we will in the future as well. And I think you have no better example of how wrong this is going. We've got Kathy Hochul. She's begging the very same Republicans, the very same conservatives she told to get out of this state in 2022. Here it is, 2026. She wants their vote. She needs their taxes. She's begging them to come back. Meanwhile, we now have Zohran Mamdani. He's over there saying, well, he wants to have open borders. He wants to have even more illegal immigration, which is a burden on our city, on our state, on our country. And he wants more people to come in because, well, it's free money and it's your money, and he just wants to give it all away. Let me focus on ICE for a second, though. I think we've seen a huge problem with ICE in New Jersey, our sister state, right next door to us. And we've seen that there's a lot of protests. And the thing that always gets me about these protests, the Democrats are fighting tooth and nail for criminals. It is a crime to enter America without authorization. They are fighting tooth and nail for these criminals to get a reward, to become American citizens, to live in our hotels, to be paid by your taxes. And when they do that, well, obviously more people come in, it becomes a bigger and bigger problem. 77 million people voted to say, no, we want mass deportations. We want the rule of law. You come into this nation, you come in orderly and organized. Am I missing something in that, Robert? Is there something in that that's wrong?
No, there's nothing at all that's wrong about that. The Democrats, look, under Joe Biden, they threw open the borders. They did everything they could to allow millions upon millions of illegal immigrants to flow unchecked into this country. They basically, they said, you want to come? Where do you want to go? You want to go to New York City? You want to go to Los Angeles? And it's clear that they directed these immigrants to the cities they wanted to send them to game this system so that when the next census comes around, they might not lose 2 seats in New York and 4 seats in California, as they're currently predicted to do. They're so desperate to get these population numbers up, people that legally can't vote, and that's their ultimate end game. They're willing to go to any lengths. 70% of the people that ICE has detained are not just criminal because they broke their immigration laws, but they actually broke laws, real laws. They committed assaults, murders, rapes, property destruction and theft, auto theft, etc. 70% of those people have either been convicted or are awaiting trial for having committed a real violent crime. And these are the people that the Democrats are happy to protect and say, no, 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 let them all back out on the street because they don't like the food that they're getting at their detention center for all the ridiculous reasons. So yeah, this is their objective. They're going to stymie the system any way they can.
It is insane, and it is very frustrating, but of course, we have to get out, we have to vote. That's ultimately the answer. And I'm not going to tell you how to vote, folks. Vote whatever you believe is the right thing to do. But I think most of us will agree with the principles of faith, freedom, America, more than, supporting illegal aliens. But let me switch this up a little bit, because I want to cover something in the last 5 minutes we have here that's making my head explode. There is a conversation in New York State about reparations. They want to give $800,000 to every descendant of a slave in America, black Americans, $800,000. That's coming from New York State, not coming from the federal government, which means that New York State would be bankrupted by this. As much as I would like to become a millionaire, this is not the way I want to do it. But maybe I'm not sensitive enough. Peter, tell me, am I not in touch?
No, listen, I agree with you 100%. It's going to bankrupt us. 100%. I mean, we're pretty much bankrupt now, if you want to, the way I look at it. So it will bankrupt us. And let's just say we were to do that. Where does it end? Do we then have to give reparations to everyone with native blood? I mean, unfortunately, we can look back. We're not a perfect country, and we never will be. But in my opinion, we're the best country on earth, and we always will be. But everybody's been treated unfairly. I'm not saying everybody's been slaves, but I think it's not the right way to go. I think they're trying to buy votes from the black community, unfortunately. And the one thing that I will say, we hear a lot of, they're an exploratory, in New York and California and whatnot, but the mainstream media, they're not talking about the black migrants who get caught, quote unquote, in Libya on their way to Europe, and they become slaves. And you can buy a slave for $200, $20, $30, depending on, their condition. And you see the videos online, not a lot, but they're not talking about that. We don't see all of the talk about that. We're never going to be able to erase our history. It was terrible. We should have never had slaves, and obviously it's despicable, but to say we're going to give reparations to everybody, it's going to bankrupt the state, and no one's going to see any money. No one will have anything left in this state. And where's everybody going to go? To Florida? It's getting pretty crowded down there.
Well, I think it'll turn New York into being a poorer state than Mississippi, so I guess Mississippi would be the better choice.
Wow.
Robert, we only got about a minute or so for you to respond on this, but tell me, do you think that New York should go full boat on becoming poorer than Mississippi, or maybe we should rethink this idea of reparations? What do you think?
Well, look, studies show if you look at people that won the lottery, they're usually poor again within a couple of years. So giving people a big check actually isn't even going to fix the problem that they're trying to solve. If you want to make people's lives better and you want to frame it in the context of reparations, what we should be doing is investing in the education of kids in poor communities that are getting right now lousy educations with vouchers to charter schools or private schools so that they can actually get a good education, support themselves, be successful, and then contribute to society. That would be the smart way to approach this. What they're doing right now is just pandering, and it's nonsense. It's never going to happen, but they're trying to buy votes.
Well, I agree with you. It is absolutely pandering. But, folks, believe it or not, we're out of time. It goes by so fast. It's amazing, but we try to give you a lot of information in a little bit of time. I want you to look into whatever issue that you found interesting today, I want you to look a bit more into it. Then leave us a comment. Tell us what you thought about our coverage, how we can cover more topics that you find important. This is Radically Conservative, where we take the opportunity to say the things that you won't hear in the mainstream media because we believe in family, we believe in faith, we believe in freedom, we believe in America, and we want it to be great as it can be, and that means we have a great audience too. So I want to thank you all for joining us on our first rechristened new outlook on the show. Tell me what you think about the background. I'm looking forward to seeing you all again very, very soon, again with my hosts. Folks, I love you. Thank you for being part of America. Most importantly, do not forget, you have to go out and vote. Go out and vote. Have your voice heard. I think all of my hosts will agree. Go out and vote this year. Make yourself be heard. Thank you, everyone.
How do you know when you've made the right decision? It's the feeling you get in your gut. The one that tells you what's right or wrong. It's the one that says, sure, I can have a drink. Or the feeling that says, okay, I've been drinking. Now what? It's the voice inside you that says, I'm buzzed. Better leave the car when it's time to go. Plan ahead. Catch a sober ride. Buzz driving is drunk driving.